like you're asking questions. All right. Let me pull up chapter 11 and start our discussion about contracts. Ooh, another favorite topic of mine, contracts. All right, let me moderate our conversation. I'm going to speak for a few minutes, guys. It's not going to be long before we take our break for lunch, so don't worry, I won't leave you hanging. By the way, remember, just after I log off, within a minute or two after that, either Noel or Lauren will come online and ask answer any administrative questions you may have. So please, if you have questions, don't go away and come back in 15, 20 minutes and ask your questions. Chances are it's been answered 2 or 3 times already. So if you got questions, stick around, they'll answer them, and then take your break. All right, real estate contracts. At the end of this chapter 11, you will be able to describe the essential elements of a valid contract, including the effect of the statute of frauds. Also be able to identify different types of contracts and issues that affect the validity of contracts, and explain various contracts used in the real estate business. There are several. So what is a contract? Obviously, what's a contract? Well, it shows you right there. It's a voluntary agreement. Obviously. It is also between legally competent parties to perform or not to perform some legal thing, and must be supported by legal consideration. What does that mean? That's what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. A contract cannot be a forced agreement. It cannot be performed under duress. It must be completely voluntary. In fact, the best contracts are normally formed by complete strangers in a contract. Why do you say that? Well, because if I'm going to sell my house to the John Q. Public, then fine, I'll get my price when I sell it, hopefully. But if I'm selling to my son's going to want the family discount. Therefore, I'm probably going to have to discount the price to sell to my son, and I won't realize full market value. It is a voluntary agreement, but in this case, it's between father and son, and the consideration, the amount of money being paid, is jaded because of the family relationship. So I'm not really realizing my full potential by selling to my son. Sorry, son, but I'm selling to the market. I can get more for it that way. Yeah, I probably could. But again, it's a voluntary agreement between legally competent parties to perform or not perform some legal thing, and it must be supported by legal consideration. So let's go into these terms a little more. First of all, contracts must have a minimum of 4 essential elements in them. The 4 essential elements are, number 1, competent parties. So let me just ask everybody out there, if they want to respond, what does competent mean? What makes somebody competent in a real estate contract? "18 years of age or older, sound mind and body." Really? You can't be a paraplegic to buy a house, huh? Okay. They're eligible. I don't know what that means. Age, sober, sound mind, able to make a decision for themselves. I don't know, I'm married. I can't make a decision for myself. I have to use my wife. Not drunk on drugs or unstable. Well, Polly, that's a good definition, but what medical training do you have to determine if someone is, quote, unstable or not of sound mind? Do you have a degree in psychology or psychiatry? Oh, no? Well, then how can you judge someone to be of sound mind? You can't. So Tyra, your same answer, sane. How do you determine if someone's sane? So, and then another one, James, no mentally or substance issues. Well, how do you know that? What gives you the authority to determine someone is mentally stable or not. Boy, so now all of a sudden this quote sound mind stuff doesn't make sense if I'm a real estate agent. What? What if you have a psych degree? I have a psych degree. I can't tell if someone's Looney Tunes or not. I don't have the ability to perform that diagnosis. You ask them if they're insane. Well, Stacy, guess what? That's one of the better answers I've seen. Believe, skilled and knowledgeable. In what manner? If they're skilled and knowledgeable with woodworking, does that make them a competent party to buy? Not necessarily. So I appreciate them, guys. I appreciate your input, guys, but I'm going to tell you right now, competent parties, as far as you're concerned as being a realtor, is someone who's able to perform on the purchase or sale or rental of a property. Now, one of the things that the book says, they have to be at least 18 years of age or older. But guess what? No, that's not true. What? Some individuals have been emancipated by law under the age of 18, meaning they are termed adults. Who's that? Anybody who gets married when under the age of 18 is emancipated and an adult by law. There are some children, I shouldn't say that, there's some ex-children who have petitioned the courts to render them separated from their parents and be emancipated so they can live their own lives free and clear of their adult influence. And if the judge agrees, he will emancipate them. They then are charged as being adults. So age is a general guideline, but emancipated person is another. So first of all, age, usually 18 years of age or older. So we'll accept that as a term. But what does competent also mean? Sound mind and body? No. What if someone is in a wheelchair? They're not of sound body, so therefore incapable of signing a contract? That's not true. That's actually discriminatory to think that. But what if they're mentally incapacitated in some way? Well, how do you know that they are? I was dealing with a fellow who was probably, geez, I bet he was 90 years old if he was a day. A World War II veteran, suffered a stroke, could not technically communicate clearly with me, but he knew exactly what the things I was saying meant. I asked him, is there someone else that should be with us when we go ahead and try to sign the listing agreement? And through writing out a statement with his very poor penmanship, said his son. I said, does he have a number for him? He flipped through a Rolodex. I saw the number. I called him up. I said, your father's here and I'm here. He's asking me to see if I can list his property. Would it be appropriate to proceed with him, or would you rather drop by to supervise what happens? He said, you know, I appreciate the call and I will stop by. One of the questions you can ask a person is everyone who's required to be with us to supervise the signature of a contract here with us today? That's when people will say, you know what, we're supposed to have this other person. So you gotta then stop and wait for that other person. So asking questions, as I said before, is very important to your role as a realtor. Learn the types of questions to ask, when it's appropriate to ask, and to whom you should ask them. Competent parties also infers a financial ability to perform. Mr. Seller, are you actually the true seller of the property? Because the documents I looked up doesn't have your name on it. No, that was my brother's name, but now I control the property. Do you have some proof of that? I need to know. If not, then I don't know that you're a competent party. But if you do, like a power of attorney or something like that, then cool, we're good to go. But Mr. Buyer, have you been approved with a mortgage lender to buy this property at this price? No, I'll worry about that later. So I don't know if you're a competent party to buy this property, and neither does the seller. So competent parties means many different things to many different people. Understand that 18 is a threshold of minor and an adult standard. But again, that could be iffy. So learn to ask a lot of questions. And I'm going to say this day in and day out. Your information that you received is the information you need to succeed. So ask a lot of questions. Now, before I move on, it's time to break for lunch. So it's 12 o'clock. I'll leave the conversation open. You guys can chit chat, do whatever you want. But I will be back at 1. And in the meantime, the next minute or two, Lauren or Noel will come on and discuss any administrative questions you have. If you have questions about stuff in the book, about practice procedure or real estate information, Lauren's not author, and neither is Noel authorized to explain these things to you because they're not licensed instructors. I am. So save your questions for this stuff for me. Ask them the administrative questions. Are we going to have, no, as I said earlier today, Walter, that he would not be presenting today. So, okay, guys, I'll see you at 1 o'clock.